Hi, this is Roger Moore, and you're listening to James Bond Radio.
Hello, and welcome to episode number 149 of James Bond Radio. My name is Tom Sears, and I'm joined by my Bondian brother, Mr. Chris Wright. Say hello, Chris.
Hello, Chris.
Now, this week we are joined by a special guest, Mr. Anders Frejdh, who, if you don't know, is the man behind the From Sweden with Love website. Now, we're coming up 5 years, aren't we, on podcasting, Chris? We've been at this a little while, but we're veritable babies when in comparison to some of the other Bond websites and communities that are out there. And I feel like From Sweden with Love is one of those communities that's been around for a very long time, especially when you compare it to little old JBR.
Well, this is it. I think what we're hoping to do is basically, you mentioned there's lots of different Bond communities out there. And I think it's quite nice if we get a chance to look at each of those or you know, at least a few of those as we go along. And From Sweden with Love, I remember when I first found out about it, it was some sort of link that I found, but it's got a lot of information on there. There, you know, if you want to find out in-depth details about Bond stuff, if there's an article on it with From Sweden with Love, it's going to be a good one. So yeah, I remember finding out about that. But I think ultimately, you know, there are definitely a few other Bond communities I think we should, you know, delve into a little bit, because like it's all sharing the love, isn't it? And yeah, so I think From Sweden with Love, it'll be interesting to get Anders' view on things and hear about where he started and all that sort of thing. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Absolutely indeed. Good stuff. So before we crack on with today's interview, make sure you come and follow us on all the social medias. There's obviously Facebook and Twitter. Just put James Bond Radio into the search box and you will find us on there. There's the Instagram page, which is James Bond Podcast over there, run by good old B-Dobbs himself. We've got jamesbondradio.com. If you want to come over there and check out some of the content over there, that's all good. You can leave us a voicemail as well, which we've had a lot of in recent weeks, haven't we? You know, with the mailbag episode and the GoldenEye 90-second reviews and all that kind of stuff. It's always good. So if you have a question or you want to just say hello, or you have a piece of trivia for us, leave a message over on the website there. If you want to help keep the good ship JBR afloat, you can click on the donate link there, which is always appreciated. And then last but not least is the iTunes page. If you find us on iTunes, and if you wouldn't mind giving us a lovely glowing 5-star review, that really helps us to rank higher in the searches and attract more listeners, doesn't it, Chris?
It certainly does, Tom.
I tried to be a bit professional with that section this week. I think I did all right, didn't I?
I think you did, yeah. It didn't have the bells and whistles as normal, but it came across as, you know, if you were delivering it at a works conference, I don't think you would have been out of place.
Basically taking everything exciting out of it and just making it as boring as you could possibly manage. Yeah, nice one. I did well
exactly.
There. Yeah. Nicely done.
Okay. Right, so before we get on and have a word with Anders, we've got our listener trivia question for this week, and that is from Mr. Simon Drake.
Let's have a listen.
Hi guys, this is Simon from Brighton with a trivia question. The trivia question is, how many times does the word détente get mentioned in the Bond films? And just to confirm, the word détente, which is the easing of hostility or strained relations, especially between countries. Thanks.
That's a good question.
Wow.
Do you know what? I'm actually quite confident on that one, as bizarre as that is, because that's quite a random question.
It is, isn't it? But that word, I think there are certain dialogue that I can hear in my head at the moment where that word is definitely mentioned a few times.
Yeah, I can think of it at least 4. Yeah. So yeah, that's nice. Yeah.
That's a great question, though. Nice.
As they say, it can be beautiful, can't it, Chris?
It certainly can.
Indeed. So then, nice question from Simon there. We'll find out the answer to that later in today's episode. But before we do, it's time to talk to the man behind From Sweden with Love, our Swedish friend, Mr. Anders Frejdh.
Who are you?
My name's Bond. James Bond.
Bond.
James.
Bond, what do you think you're doing?
Keeping the British end up, sir.
Welcome to James Bond Radio. News, reviews, and discussion of all things 007.
Pussy. As you can see, I have no problem with female authority.
Oh, pipe down, 007.
You expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
So here we are today with James Bond Radio, our first Bond community interview, and we have all the way from Sweden with Love, Mr. Anders Frejdh. Welcome to the show, Anders.
Hey guys, thank you.
How you doing? You feeling good today?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good, thanks.
Good. Now you're
Sunday afternoon.
You are calling this from Sweden right now, but you were recently in Vegas for a Bond-related wedding, were you not?
That's correct. Yes, I came back actually on Wednesday this week. I was there for my friend Chris Keel, who is the youngest son of Richard Keel.
Nice.
And so that was fun. My first trip to Vegas, actually.
So the question everybody has on their mind, obviously, is how does he reach the same heights that his dad did? Is he a tall guy, or what's going on? Does he have metal teeth? What's the story?
It's quite funny actually, because when I mentioned this that I'm friends with Chris, everyone asked me that how tall is he? But the true fact is that I'm actually taller than all of Richard kids. He's got 3 sons and 1 daughter.
Wow.
So I actually feel pretty tall when I'm with them.
Nice. Cool stuff. So
was Chris the son that was in The Spy Who Loved Me? Because I remember someone saying that one of Richard Keel's sons was on the beach when Roger Moore drives out in the Lotus Esprit. Was that Chris, or was that one of the others?
Well, since I'm here, we can put the record straight then, because Richard has four children that I told you about. His oldest child is called he's called Richard as well. Sometimes he's being called RJ. Sorry, RG. RJ is his grandkid. So that's Richard George. He's the person that you can see on the beach in Spy Who Loved Me.
Very nice.
And then comes Jennifer, who is the daughter, and then comes Bennett, which actually also is sort of connected to the Bond world, because there is actually an official still of a baby from Moonraker, and that's actually Bennett. And it was taken by the stills photographer because Bennett needed a passport photo, because Bennett he was born during the production of Moonraker in Paris. And then we have Chris, who was born after Moonraker came out.
Oh.
Do you know what, Chris? I feel like we're going to learn some things today, don't you?
I
Already.
It's been what, 60 seconds, and we've learned so much. It's amazing.
Excellent stuff. So cool. Okay, wicked. That sounds like a good time. So what we're going to do then, as we do with all of our guests, Anders, is we're going to start off with the 007 quickfire questions, just to give everybody an idea of what your tastes are when it comes to the world of Bond, and then we'll talk more in depth about From Sweden with Love and everything you've been up to over the years. So without any further ado, question number 1 is, Anders Frejdh, what is your favourite Bond film?
I've been saying Goldfinger for a long time, but every time I rewatch Casino Royale, I'm re-evaluating my choice, because I think that is probably the greatest Bond film of all.
It is a great one, isn't it? I
think that's
always
a good
say,
answer, isn't it?
Yeah, when I first saw that, I didn't know what to think of it when the very first viewing I had. I came out and I was like, I just don't know what to make of it. It's so different. And then when I went back for the second time, I was like, I think this actually might be the best one they've ever made, which was so unexpected, wasn't it? You never, that deep into a series, you would never expect that a masterpiece like that would come along. So yeah, good choice.
Yeah, and also because I remember clearly also when I saw it for the first time, because I was actually living in London at the time. I was living in London in 2006. And I was invited to a preview screening of that, and I had goose pimples basically on my arms, which actually has never happened before, actually. Not either before or after, because, I mean, I love Bond, of course, but Casino Royale was such a brilliant movie, I think, made after, 20 films before that, and then number 121 is like so good. It was incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. I was talking about goose pimples. To this very day, if I even think, like, my favorite scene in the whole series is when he finally says the James Bond line at the very end of the film. And if to this day, and I'm getting it right now, if I even think of that moment in the film, I get a little shiver down my spine, you know?
Yeah.
So
as you guys also know, of course, that he was very much criticized, during the production, that he was blonde, and what color is Roger Moore's hair? And the fact that it turned out that it was so good, it was like, okay, here you go, guys, I'm pretty good. I think he was brilliant, Daniel Craig. Yeah.
Excellent stuff. Okay, so on to question 2 then, Anders. Out of all the Bond books that you've read, what would you say is your favourite?
That's a more difficult question, I think, because I'm a fan of Fleming. I would say I love Ian Fleming's books, and I sometimes even I go back to the books more than the films. Actually, the older I get, and I think more people should try and discover the books because I mean they are the foundation for the films, of course. But I'll probably go with On Her Majesty's Secret Service is a really good book, I think. I like also Thunderball, actually, because Thunderball was actually the first I read in the 80s because I didn't know in which order they came out, so I just picked Thunderball. But no, I think Majesty is probably the best one of those books.
I think so, and it's great how they stayed so close to the source with that particular novel. Obviously, with the film itself, it's pretty much verbatim what's in the book, aside from one or two small things. And I think when you've got a book that's strong that you can, convert into a film, it's a surefire winner, really, when you got that material.
Exactly, I'm totally with you. I totally agree with you that they also the film version is very much follow the book version, of course, and which is good.
Nice done. Next question then: who is your favourite actor to have portrayed James Bond?
Well, as much as I like Daniel Craig as Bond, I think he's a brilliant actor. I think no one will ever top Sean Connery for me, because I think Sean Connery, he was the first, the original, and the reason at least why I still follow the franchise as much as I can.
Yeah.
And but it's to be honest with you, I don't really like to rank things because I think each one of them has brought something to the role. But Sean Connery is usually I tell people he's my personal favorite. Yeah,
it's a difficult thing. We often say that, don't we, Chris, about like ranking the films or the actors or whatever, is in the sense that it sort of devalues somebody immediately, even though that there's a lot to be said for all the actors and all the films. A lot of pluses, and that when you're forced to rank them in the top 10 or whatever, it's just kind of like I don't really like doing that myself. But I think Connery exists in his own little world. I think maybe we need to rephrase the question to future guests, where it's like, apart from Sean Connery, who is your favourite Bond?
Well, I know. I mean, I know a lot of people who like to say Roger Moore as their favorite, for example, or even Timothy Dalton, but. So I don't think actually everyone says Sean Connery, but for me, absolutely, it's Sean.
Okay.
Cool. Good choice.
Well, this question might be a little trickier for you, Anders. We'd like to know who your favourite Bond girl of the series is, and you are allowed to give two answers. So if there's a girl that really gets your blood going, that you just, would love to spend a naughty night with, but equally a Bond girl character as well, who would you say would be your favourite Bond girl?
Okay, so in the films or in reality?
Actually, let's go with both. But we'll start with the films.
Okay. Well, I'll go back to my 10-year-old self, and that's one of my favorites was Holly Goodhead. Actually, I really liked Holly Goodhead when I was younger. And then I saw GoldenEye, and then I fell in love with Xenia Onatopp. So and I had a boat. I had a boat for a couple of years, and I actually named the boat Xenia.
Really?
Nice.
Because of her. So I'll probably go with those two then.
Were you hoping that Xenia was going to hop on board and like squeeze you to death or anything like that?
I've been very fortunate, to meet a lot of people from the Bond series, but I have never actually met Famke Janssen. But maybe one day we'll see.
Tom has, haven't you, Tom?
I
think
did,
you should.
and it was one of the worst things that ever happened to me. I say met. It was. I happened to go. I was in Los Angeles at the time, and I went into a supermarket, and she was in the line checking out to get her lunch or whatever she was doing. And oh God, it makes me cringe just to think about it. I got my missus. I was like, quick, take a photo, just with her in the background. And oh God, and it just so happened that. Catherine's phone was full, so she's frantically trying to delete photos to make space, and by the time we'd actually made it happen, she totally clocked what we were doing. And then I could see she went and sat outside to eat her lunch with some dude she was with, and you could tell she was really pissed off, and I just wanted to crawl inside and just curl up and die. It was horrible. But yeah, that's my Famke story.
Okay. No, that was funny actually, because I haven't actually heard about her from many people, but a friend of mine interviewed her in the 90s, but No, I mean, it's nice to hear other people's stories, but it's usually best to at least give your own opinion.
Indeed,
I mean, come up with your own opinion. But
I wish my story was better than that one. But there we go. Next question then: if you can possibly sort of pin it down across so many films, do you have a favorite scene across the whole series? Like I was just saying, the end scene in Casino Royale is my one. That's the one that stands out above all others for me. Is there one scene that really does it for you?
Well, I was talking to a friend of mine the other day about, when we quote things from the Bond movies. I don't know about you guys, but I tend to go back to all of Tom Mankiewicz's works. Because I think, Goldfinger, Diamonds, Live and Let Die, The Man with the Golden Gun, I think those have very good quotes in them. I mean, if there's one thing I should criticize with the Daniel Craig movies, I think I don't really quote anything from those movies. I always quote stuff from Mankiewicz's work, but I mean, there's probably many things I would say, but I mean, Mr. Winter, Mr. Kidd, and Diamonds. I mean, if God wanted man to fly, he would have given him wings, Mr. Kidd. That's probably a favorite one.
Such a good line.
Yeah,
Anders, I've got a quick question for you. Do you try and get Bond quotes into everyday conversation with people who don't know that they're actually Bond quotes? So you'll say a line, knowing in your head that actually this is from this Bond film, but and you kind of get extra bonus marks whenever you can get it into general conversation. Do you do that or not necessarily?
It has happened. Absolutely, it's happened. But since I'm in Stockholm and I speak mainly Swedish for obvious reasons here, it doesn't happen that I do a lot of quotes over here. But sometimes when I'm in England or in America, for example, I can certainly come up with those. But in my daily Swedish conversation, I don't really quote it from the movies. No.
Nice. Okay. So on to the next question then. What would you say is your favorite James Bond theme tune?
I'd probably go with the Goldfinger in this case again, because I think that's a really, really great song. And but the music in general, I think is interesting throughout the series, because it also reflects the time that the films came out. But Goldfinger was a pretty powerful song, I think.
Really powerful.
Yeah. And I like GoldenEye as well with Tina Turner. Actually, she was good as well.
That's a beauty. I think when you go through the series, there are a handful of songs that are just like next level songs. There are songs that are great and they do their job as a Bond song, but there are some that are just like that extra special magic to them. And Goldfinger, I think, is definitely one of those for sure.
Yeah.
Cool. Next question then is, and you're a very well-travelled man. I see you on Instagram and you get around quite a lot, Anders. I see you out on the golf course living your Bondian style life and travelling around. So out of all of the Bond locations you've visited over the years, what is your favourite?
Probably Corfu.
Very nice.
Which I visited in August 2000, so about almost 18 years ago. I was there with a friend who had already been there actually a couple of years before. He's a semi-Bond fan. He's one of my good friends in Sweden. And he convinced me that we should go to Corfu. So we went there, and that was a really, really cool trip, because we got to see stuff that I believe, or so I've been told, that you can't access all those places anymore. For example, they shot a lot of scenes at the old fortress in Corfu town. And I don't know if it's true, but I heard you can't go there nowadays, but maybe they changed it now. But and also Danilia village, which is a very sacred village. So whenever we mentioned that name to people in Corfu, everyone became silent because they didn't want to talk about it. I think it was some religious things there or whatever it was. But no, Corfu was fantastic, and Bahamas, of course, is extremely nice to be there as well.
Nice, absolutely. It's a shame that, isn't it? When I was in Hong Kong a while back and wanted to do all the Man with the Golden Gun locations, And I really wanted to get into High Fat's Garden because, as far as I understand it, it looks more or less as it did in the film. But obviously, I have my copy of On the Tracks of 007 with me. But all the leads that Martin sent me, he sent me a guy that had given him a tour a few years ago, and I had all these email addresses, and every single one bounced back, and all my leads dried up, so I couldn't get there in the end. I was really disappointed. So yeah, it's tough, isn't it? You have to like get in when the time is right. If you're too late, sometimes those Bond locations can be blocked off forever. So nice one for getting in there early. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, since we mentioned that I was in Vegas, I naturally ticked off a few locations in Vegas also.
Nice. Very nice.
I went to Slumbers Inc., for example.
Sweet, good stuff.
That was cool.
Is there a location you've yet to visit, or have you done them all? Is there like one last location that you'd really like to go to that you haven't been to yet?
Absolutely. I mean, I've done a lot of locations, of course, but there's still many to go. I would say I haven't been to. Where was I? I was thinking about something the other day. Well, I haven't been to Jamaica actually, but and of course I want to go to Jamaica. But I always told people that I could easily go there if I wanted to, but I always said that if I ever get married, I will go to Jamaica.
Very nice.
Since that hasn't happened yet, and we'll see if it happens. But
I guess it's an excuse. I think if you use it as the opening line to your prospective date, I think you'd be onto a winner there.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Maybe I'll try
it. I guess Jamaica, I guess, is kind of like the ultimate Bond location, isn't it? Really, when you think about how everything started there in terms of the films and the books. Yeah.
Absolutely. Even though I don't like it when it gets too commercialized, like I heard GoldenEye has become very commercialized and very expensive to stay there. Because I have a friend in America. He stayed at GoldenEye many times in the 80s, and it cost nothing. Now I think it cost. I heard a figure of $4,000 per night or something like that.
Damn. Yeah.
Which I think is insane. I mean, it's. But of course, you can still go and visit. That's one thing I would love to do. Of course, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we should, if we go, then we should like swim from the next bay across, and we'll do a little bit of snorkeling, Fleming style, and then arrive on GoldenEye Beach, and then we can just enter that way. And we could do it at night with a little duck, have a little duck on our head, and then we could like take off our wetsuit and just walk on up. I think that'd be all right. What do you think?
I mean, why not? It's a free world.
Okay, so just rounding out the last of the quickfire questions then, Anders. Do you remember what your earliest memory of James Bond was?
Yes, very, very much so. And at the same time, I'm a little bit sad to also actually talk about it now, because it was a friend that I grew up with. We were neighbors for 18 years the first 18 years of our lives. And he sadly actually passed away only a couple of weeks ago. I mean, by pure accident. A tree fell over him.
Oh, Jesus.
So it's very sad. But he actually introduced me to James Bond, because he was 1 year older than I am, and he had Spy Who Loved Me on VHS when we grew up in the early 80s. And he invited me over to watch. He said, "Let's watch a movie," and Spy Who Loved Me came on. And I still remember that to this day, actually, because the opening sequence and Jaws, and so that's as far as I can remember the first memory I have of to actually see that movie.
I tell you what, that is a great film to start with. I mean, that's a great. How old did you say you were when that happened?
I was around 10 years old, not 9, 10, something like that. Yeah.
Perfect.
Mm.
Nice. We still get nightmares about Jaws nowadays, don't you, Tom?
I still do. That's funny. Those were the two I couldn't watch because I found Jaws too terrifying with Spy and Moonraker. So I was probably 20 years old when I saw. Nah, I'm not that far, but not when I was a kid, that's for sure. But oh man, sorry to hear that. But it's makes the Bond connection extra special. Then I guess, doesn't it, when you've got a connection like that?
Most certainly does, because as we mentioned also that I became friends with Richard over the years, and he was such a nice guy, a gentle giant, as he was always called.
Yeah,
which was so very true, because I still don't know why he invited me to meet his family and all these things, and that was so nice of him, because it was nothing I ever requested or anything like that. But
yeah.
And also the guy who made the opening sequence. I mean, the ski jump. Rick Sylvester, who created, I think, the greatest stunt in history, in film history. And it turns out that he studied in Sweden in the 60s. So I called him up a couple of years ago, and we got talking. And well, I didn't know before I called him that he had actually lived here. So he spoke a little bit of Swedish with me as well, and then we got to meet, and so that was nice. So nice. From that movie, there are many small little anecdotes that is personal for me. So
sweet. Cool. Nice. There's a good solid grounding in your Bondian life. So then, I suppose the first kind of main question we have for you is, From Sweden with Love has been around for a while, hasn't it? It's been a project you've worked on for many years now. So what originally inspired you to start the whole project? Where did it all begin with From Sweden with Love?
Well, originally, I'd say that I only started it for myself, basically. Not really for anybody else, because obviously I've been collecting a lot of stuff over the years for crap, I would say. It calls me once in a while to ask me can I throw it away now, or do you keep it? Because I live in an apartment in Stockholm, and I can't obviously fit everything in here. But no, I had so much stuff, and then I started to go to England about 20 years ago, because London has almost became a second hometown for me. And I couldn't always remember what I had when I was in England, and I wanted to buy more stuff. And that's when I decided to, let's create a website and list my stuff so I can look at it when I'm in England. So that's basically what inspired me to start it for myself, to actually list my collection. And then when I was in England, I could double check what I have, and I didn't buy something I already had.
Nice.
so that was the main reason, basically, why I started it originally, and that was in September 2004.
2004. That's what I was saying just before we started recording, is that we've been podcasting coming up 5 years now, and it feels like a long time. But I remember way back in the day knowing that From Sweden with Love was a thing and a resource for Bond fans online. It feels like you guys have been around forever. But we're little babies compared to From Sweden with Love with our meager 5 years.
No, I think you guys do a wonderful job, and it's great to have a podcast now. Because I think the different, Bond fans are always looking for new stuff in one way or the other. So I think we all complement each other in a very good way.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks.
But to add on to the story about From Sweden with Love, I haven't really added my collection since about 2007 or something like that. Because then after I launched it, and then like I said, it was only for me originally. And then I got I met a lot of people in reality who had seen the site, and why don't you do this? Why don't you add this? And so now I try to keep it more a general site with news and interviews and promote events and help other people to sort of expand their audience. And so I think nowadays it has a different purpose, much different purpose than originally. And I do it in my spare time, but I have other people helping me nowadays as well. So, which is good, because as you guys know, it takes a lot of time. All of us, we spend loads of time on Bond. Indeed, and we're all ambassadors, basically. So I think it's a team effort in many ways.
When you said you stopped buying stuff in 2007, I thought you were going to say because David Zaritsky came along and bought everything and there was nothing left to have. It's all in his basement.
I didn't stop buying. I still buy stuff, but I stopped listing the stuff on the site, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't think I will ever stop, and I don't really sell anything either. I just grow out of my places. I need to move into new places once in a while.
Absolutely.
Do you keep a photo archive of everything, or just literally list everything that you have?
I don't list anything since 2007, basically. But now in my apartment, I have basically all the books I have in my apartment, so I can because I like to go back to the books. Not just the novels, but behind the scenes books and biographies and stuff like that. My posters I have packed because I have no space, and then I have hundreds of photos, but they are mostly in folders, so easy to tuck away also in a way. But my toys, for example, I can't fit them in anywhere. So, but most of the toys, yeah.
You're missing a Bond man cave. That's what it is, Anders.
Well, it is a man cave in many ways, but I'm not going to show it to you now. But no, I like my new place. It's actually 2 floors, so and it's nice to have my Bond life on the first floor, and on the second one I can relax.
It's funny.
In a way.
I think the biggest thing for me over the years is buying posters, because I'll always see a poster, especially if there's like an unusual one that's not just your standard kind of movie poster. And there are not enough walls in the world to put up the number of posters I've bought over the years, and then just put them in a tube and pack them away, because there's just not enough space to put them all up. Yeah.
Exactly. No, it's a waste in a way too, because I mean the stuff you buy, you should have them up, I think, but if you run out of space, that's what you have to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're just going to go into sort of the whole connection between sort of Sweden and Bond and the Bond films now, particularly in terms of Swedish actresses. Now, obviously, everyone knows about Maud Adams. She's obviously been in 2 films, Britt Ekland, Christina Wayborn, Mary Stavin as well, with Octopus in A View to a Kill. But there are also some other Swedish actresses which people might not know as much about. Obviously, Anne Lomborg. She's sort of, I think she had a Swedish father, didn't she? Is she half Swedish, I think?
That's correct. She's half Swedish, even though she doesn't speak a word of Swedish though. But.
No. And Isabella Scorupco, she was born in Poland but moved to Sweden when she was really young. That's right, isn't it?
That's correct. She came here with her mother. Her mother is a doctor. And I don't really know much about her father really, but she came here with her mother, and they settled down in a suburb of Stockholm. And so, I mean, obviously she's Polish, but she grew up in Sweden, and she's a Swedish citizen. And even though she lives in America, so people here consider her, as much Swedish as anybody else.
And I guess if you wanted to push the boat out even further, Eva Green. Was it her dad half Swedish or something like that? So would you call her a quarter Swedish maybe? I'm not sure.
Well, as far as I know, actually, her father is 100% Swedish. I might be wrong, but that's as far as I know. But he moved to Paris, and that's where he met Eva's mother.
Oh, lovely.
So as far as I know, her father is Swedish, but because her father's sister is actually an actress. She was an actress over here.
Oh wow!
So, but it's same there with Anne, that Eva doesn't really speak a word of Swedish, sadly, or maybe good for her.
So, what do you think it is then about sort of Swedish actresses that make them a good fit for Bond? Is there something in particular about them which make it with that sort of caliber that we've just listed? Obviously, all great Bond girls. What is it? Do you think that defines sort of Swedish actresses that make them good for Bond?
It was a very good question. I think Scandinavian people in general. I think we always try to be honest people, respectful people, and I think with Maud and Britt, who was obviously the first Swedish Bond girls, I think they did a good job, and they were respected by the producers, and they showed up on time on set and didn't act bad or anything, and so I think they sort of maybe created a sort of good reputation for the Swedish girls. So, and then they were followed by Christina, Mary, and Anne, and all the others. But I'm surprised actually, because I'm actually surprised that there is not more girls from Ukraine. As you guys know, Olga Kurylenko is Ukrainian, as you know.
And we're big fans of Olga Kurylenko as well.
Yeah, and she's spectacular. Because I met her, but Chris Keel, who I told you, got married, and his wife now, she's also from Ukraine actually, even though she moved to the States with her parents, and I was in Ukraine for a wedding in June, and where I also sort of discovered, they have like 10 different Olga Kurylenkos here.
Right, so I'm booking my plane ticket right now.
Yeah, no, but well, you're taking. But Chris, you are free. You're a free man.
I'm heading over there as soon as this interview is over. That's it.
Yeah.
I'm booking my plane. I'm flying.
You
over.
should definitely go out and check out the Ukrainian girls.
Yeah. Okay.
Good Lord, goodness gracious me! It almost sounds like a country somewhat like Octopussy's Island, just full of old Korolenkos. It sounds magical.
No further comments. If you guys go there, you'll see.
Cool stuff. So just before we started recording this call, actually, we mentioned the last time we saw you in the flesh was at the Spectre premiere, obviously back in 2015, and your date that night was obviously Magda herself, Christina Wayborn. So how did you get to know her, and you manage her now as well? Is that right?
Yeah. Actually, that was actually the second time I was with Christina, because we also attended the Skyfall premiere together. But then I back for Skyfall, I actually invited her to come with me. With Spectre, it was the opposite, because Eon invited her as a special guest, and then she returned the favor, basically. But no, we are very good friends, and I help her as much as I can managing her. And we got to know each other through a mutual friend of mine, a mutual friend of ours, who provided me with Christina's phone number. So I basically just called her up out of the blue, and this was about, I think, 8 years ago, something, 8 or 9 years ago. And we got along well, and then we met in reality, and because I think it's mutual that we like each other. And she's a very nice person in real life as well. So we're friends, basically. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Nice.
And you also manage Mary Stavin as well now. Is that true? Yeah,
that's true. Yeah,
similar sort of thing. Yeah. That's great. In fact, there's one thing I was going to ask, and it's a rumor that hangs around Bond a lot, and I've heard both sides of the story. But obviously, in A View to a Kill, Maud Adams, it was rumored that she was seen around the Fisherman Wharf, the tram scene, around that sort of side. Can you confirm whether she is or isn't in it? Because I know that's sort of up for debate quite a lot, that particular scene. Do you know? Well, can you confirm either way?
No, she's not. As far as I know, she's definitely not in it. I haven't been able to see her. I have asked Maud herself, have you seen yourself in the movie? And she says, no, I'm not in the movie, Anders. So if she can't see herself, I think that's pretty good proof that she's not in the movie. I mean, I don't think actually she sits at home and watch 2 seconds and then I don't think she does that. But no, I mean,
not like us.
I mean, if she says that she can't see herself, that's and I tried to look for her a couple of times, but no, I mean, none of us can see her, so I don't think she's in it. No.
Speaking of scanning Bond films to see yourself in it, I saw a little Instagram post from you recently that you actually feature in Quantum of Solace, don't you, in one of the greatest sequences from that film. So how did that come about? You were in the opera sequence, weren't you?
That's right. Actually, Daniel Craig walks around me to chase this guy into the toilet. So that was one of the highlights for me as a Bond fan, I would say, because it's a long story, but no, I heard they were looking for extras, and I know a couple of people who worked on the movie, and they told me about it, and I said, okay, what if I want to be an extra, what should I do? And then they said you have to go to Bregenz for a casting call, and I said, okay, I can do that. So I went there with actually a couple of friends of mine. Remmert was there, for example, from Bond Lifestyle. But I mean, when we showed up, there were literally like 5,000 people there. So I said to Remmert, basically, okay, we're screwed. We're not going to make this if we're 5,000 people here. But anyway, cut a long story short, we just heard back from them. I think it was about 2 months after this, because they took our photos and we had to fill in a paper, blah, blah, blah. And they asked a few questions, and that was it. So like 2 months after, I had basically a call and saying that I'm requested in Bregenz for 2 weeks.
Wow.
So, and I called Remmert up, and he was also requested. So I think both of us were obviously very lucky. And then we went there, and then before I went there, I actually called up my friend Guy Hamilton, who I was also very fortunate to be I got to know well over the years. And I called Guy up and I said, I'm called to be an extra in a new Bond movie, and do you have any advice for me? And Guy said, well, the only thing I can say, Anders, that make sure that you get to know the assistant directors. And I said, okay, that's good then, because I already know one of them.
Nice.
So, and then, okay, then you'll be fine, he said. So, okay. And then, like I said, we were there in Austria for 2 weeks, and we were not on set every day, but I was on set probably 5-6 days or something for different scenes in the movie. But then there was this particular scene which made it into the film, that when Daniel Craig walks around me basically to go into this toilet, and I mean, I didn't know much about this film, of course, but when they changed the camera position, my name was called, and I got to go over to Mark Forster, because Mark Forster was just sitting in a corner basically watching a monitor. He wasn't really on the floor, so to speak. And then I was there and then suddenly Daniel comes as well. So it's me, Daniel Craig, and Mark Forster, and one of the assistant directors. And then we watched the monitor that he was looking into, and there I could basically see myself. So that's when I realized that, okay, if they don't cut this scene, I'm going to make it to the movie. Because they wanted to give us direction, because they were changing camera positions. So they were just explaining how we should, walk again, so to speak, because they took the scene, I don't know, 20 times or something. So then I realized that, okay, if they don't cut it, I'm going to be in the movie. So it was a nice surprise when I realized they hadn't cut it.
That is the dream right there. Yeah. I remember a story I've often told is when they were shooting Skyfall, I was in London by chance that day, and they were shooting the part where Em and Tanner are on their way back to MI6 just before it blows up. And so they were driving along the Thames there, and I just happened to be walking by completely randomly, as you might imagine. And I was pulling my suitcase, and I must have done about 5 or 6 laps back and forth, just on the off chance that maybe the camera would have picked me up in the distance through the back of the car, walking along the side of the street, which of course it didn't. Yeah. It was never going to happen. But I thought, just on the off chance, I've got to give this a try and see what happens. But
of course,
immortalized forever. That is the dream for any Bond fan, to be on the screen with Bond himself. Man, that's great.
Yeah, I was very lucky, of course, to be able to do that, but. It's also to add to the experience. It's also a very boring process, I would say, to be an extra. I mean, to be the main actor is probably much more fun, but to be an extra is a lot of waiting time. You spend hours there and nothing happens, and you wonder what are they doing now?
I think Tom and I are going to do our best to try and get into Bond 25 as extras if we can. And I just think, even though I know that there'll be a lot of waiting around and it'll be boring as hell, I still think that we'd be buzzing so much from just being around a Bond set that we'd, I don't know. Yeah, but then you got to keep calm. You can't be too giddy, otherwise they might not want to shoot you. So
exactly. I mean, just be quiet and be. Behave good, and you'll be fine.
That was there's another story where I was an extra once upon a time years ago in Band of Brothers, that TV series, and basically me and my mates had to be German prisoners of war, stood to attention. It was a very, very last scene of the whole series where there was a German officer stood up on a bank and he was like giving a speech to his men after the war had ended. And we stood in that field for God knows how many hours, and it was a miserable experience. It was horrible because, of course, we just had to literally stand dead still at attention all day long. And like the guys that were kind of like managing all the extras weren't the nicest guys in the world either. And by the time it came out and we got to see the scene, literally the camera just goes whoop, pans across all the guys. So I know roughly where I was stood that day, but the camera moves so fast, there's not enough time to even focus on any individual. It's just like a big blob across the screen. Yeah. But so you were extra lucky, man, that you're actually there, immortalized.
That's what I mean as well. Yeah. That I mean, if you're lucky, you can be lucky to become an extra. You can be lucky to be on set as an extra. But then you have to be, again, extremely lucky to not end up on the cutting room floor, basically.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's no guarantees, sadly. But
so if that's one of your sort of finest points in your sort of Bond fan history, I think another one has to be this next point, that you're not only managing a couple of Bond girls, but you're managing James Bond himself, Mr. George Lazenby, which is incredible. Right. So how did that come about, and what does your role involve, so to speak?
Well, I've been helping George now since about 4 or 5 years, basically. I first met George in 2002, so 16 years ago, and then we met randomly at various occasions over the years. But then in 2013, I was asked to help out with a couple of the guests for the big Shilton event they had. I mean, as you guys know, there's a big Shilton event coming up next year. But they've had 2 previous ones. One was in 2013, and the other one was in 2015. So for the 2013 one, they asked me to basically see who was available to come, and so I was basically doing that. And then I got hold of George and Terry Mountain and John Glenn and all these people. And then I think sort of that's when we actually connect. That's when I really connected with George. And I'm also the same age. I happen to be the same age as the son he had, who sadly passed away. I don't know if you guys know that, but he had a son who sadly passed away in the early 90s. So I don't. Maybe that's a factor, but no, we really connected and liked each other, and so I started to help him. I mean, I told him that I can help you with whatever you want, and he said, okay, let's see what we can do. So that's how it started. Nowadays, basically, people ask me. I mean, they turn directly to me and ask me about him. Is he available for this? Can he do this interview? And can he appear here? Blah blah blah. And so it's a professional relationship nowadays as well, apart from being friends as well.
Sweet. And the odd round of golf as well, when you can.
We play as much golf as we can, actually. No, I played with him, I think, 5 times or so when I've been in LA. So that's fun.
And do you kind of let him win, or do you actually play to your full potential?
No. He's not the type of person. He's not the type of person that you let win, I would say. No, he's a very he's a very competitive sportsman. So we have. I think I have beaten him most times. He might say something else, but no, he's very good. He has a fantastic driver, and he's a fantastic hitter of the ball, I would say. And actually, this is a side story, but as you might know, that he's got 3 kids with Pam Shriver, who was ranked number 1 in female double tennis with Martina Navratilova. And he told me that the first time they met actually was when Pam spotted George on the driving range, and she found him very impressive. That he was hitting the golf shots very good. So that's how they first met. No, he's very good at golf, I would say.
And I do love that little moment on Her Majesty's where he goes to the hotel and he's carrying the golf clubs, and it's a nice little throwback there to Goldfinger, and the fact that George is into golf as well. That's I like that. It's a nice little moment, that one. Absolutely.
And I mean, he likes sports a lot. He plays a lot of tennis, obviously, with his kids, and he's also he's actually an ex. He's an ex-world champion in motocross for veterans. So when he was around 50, 55, he became world champion in motocross racing I think you say veteran class.
I didn't know that.
He's actually world champion. So I think that's why he's still very strong. That he became very strong. He had strong physics because of that sport.
Wow.
That must be quite a special moment when you're playing a round of golf with Bond himself and you beat him as well. I mean, that's gotta be. You've got to walk home a little bit taller that night, haven't you?
Well, if you guys happen to be in LA next time we play, you guys can caddy us if you like.
That sounds good. The last time I tried to play golf, I embarrassed myself in front of everybody. So I would definitely be more of a caddy than a player. That's for sure. Yeah, I wouldn't be winning any games.
I'd be keeping the spare golf ball inside my trouser pocket to drop down just in case you need it, Anders, okay?
Yeah, absolutely. You never know. You never know.
So obviously we've talked about a lot of Swedish Bond girls being featured in the films across the years. Are there any Swedish actors or actresses you'd like to see in a future Bond film, maybe playing a villain or a future Bond girl? Any thoughts on that front?
Well, there's many, I would say. There's many names, but I'm not going to name drop now, I think. But there was actually, because a friend of mine is working with Dolph Lundgren he's done a couple of things with Dolph. I mean, not in movies, but in his private life to help him with various things. And he actually posted a picture, I think it was this week, with Dolph, because Dolph, as you know, is promoting Creed 2 at the moment. And there was an interview with Dolph, and Dolph has a tuxedo on. And he said, well, what do you think about Dolph being the villain in the next Bond movie? And if they're looking for a Russian guy, why not? But I don't think it's going to happen, though. But he's already typecast as a Russian bad guy. But
yeah.
But no, he's a big man, so he can certainly be a henchman, I think.
Isn't it right that you interviewed him a few years ago? Did he mention about his first on-screen role was Venn's in A View to a Kill, wasn't it? Did he mention about that and how he got the part and everything?
Absolutely. And I also talked to John Glenn about it, because the reason being that he was, at the time, he was Grace Jones's boyfriend, as you guys know. And he was basically on set with Grace. And they needed someone for this part, and that guy never showed up. And John basically turned to Dolph and said, "What do you think? Would you want to do it?" So he said, "Okay, I'll do it." So he just stepped in basically, and the rest is history. That's how he ended up in the movie. And then a few months later, I mean, he got the part of Ivan Drago, the rest is history.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on Ola Rapace from Skyfall? I thought he was really great in terms of, playing Patrice. He obviously worked out for the role. And the fight between him and Daniel, both on the train and supposedly in Shanghai, I mean, they're brilliant scenes. What are your thoughts on Ola Rapace?
He's also a very strong guy. Actually, we actually go to the same gym here in Stockholm, so I bump into him once in a while. I bumped into him on an airplane. Actually, we flew to London together. But Ola is, well, the funny thing is this, I think, because Ola, and there's also another guy in Skyfall, the guy that Bond battles underwater. His name is Jens Hultén. So there's actually two Swedish guys in Skyfall. But the funny thing, which Ola and Jens also told me, that they don't really have a dialogue, any of them. They just fight. None of them say a word in the movie. And both of them thought that was pretty funny, because they both went to a long casting process, and in the end they end up in a movie saying nothing. But they both are very physical guys, and I can see why they like them. But I think both of them is really also very good actors as well. But it's a shame they didn't use them for any dialogue scenes. It was mainly fighting, but.
I guess the henchmen in the Bond films, for the majority, they're quite well known to not speak a lot. If you can think about your Jawses and your Odd Jobs and stuff like that, they tend to like muted henchmen, don't they?
That's very true, of course. Very true, absolutely. Maybe it's more mystique to have them not saying anything. But,
yeah.
But I think from their point of view, so to speak, as an actor, you want to at least say something, but. Obviously, they didn't say anything. So, but I think both of them should be very lucky anyway that they chose them, of course. Absolutely. Because Ola has made many international productions since, and Jens also. Jens was in one of the Mission Impossible movies, actually, with Tom Cruise. So none of them are really complaining, I would say, anyway.
Absolutely, yeah. It makes the job easier, I suppose. You don't have to remember any lines. But there we go.
That's true.
So Sweden is an interesting place in the sense that, as far as I'm aware, they've never filmed any Bond in Sweden. But
sadly not.
There's a key moment, obviously, in Fleming's Bond where one of his kills takes place in Stockholm, isn't it, to get his 00 status. So it's a key place in the world in the history of the Bond character. So if you were to suggest a potential filming location for a future Bond, where would Bond go in Sweden, in your opinion?
Well, the Stockholm archipelago. It would be a fantastic location, I think. I mean, it's not a location, but it's more of an area. But because Stockholm is built up of 30,000 islands, right? So a boat chase in the archipelago, in some way or the other. I'm sure that could work. And I actually come from a small town near to Gothenburg, and And there we have not in my hometown, but the next door hometown, small town, so to speak. They have an old fortress, which I think could also work as a sort of villain's quarters.
Spectre meeting next time.
Yeah, something like that. But of course, in the north of Sweden, there's lots of snow possibilities to have a race with snowmobiles or whatever. But I mean, Stockholm in itself, Stockholm as a town, would work for a meeting or conference in any Bond film, as far as I'm concerned.
I feel like that has to happen at some point, because obviously when they filmed Spectre in Rome, Rome seems like such an obvious place for Bond to have been, and that was obviously the first time in the whole series that he'd been to Rome. So I feel like when you say that, like the images that you have in your mind of Stockholm in Sweden, I feel like that's got to happen at some point, isn't it?
Well, whenever I meet with someone who work on the movies, I'm trying to lobby for Sweden, of course, for natural reasons. But no, I think the chances are still good, I would say, because I mean, like you guys said, they had never used Rome before, and that the fact that they have never used Sweden means that we should have at least pretty good chance of having a movie here once. I mean, sooner or later, but we'll see if it happens or not. I'd be happy to work on the movie for free if it happens.
Me too.
Yes, and yeah, count us in. We'll do whatever you want. Okay, so Anders, looking forward to 2020 and Bond 25. What are you hoping to get out of the next Bond film? Are you wanting any link at all to Spectre, or whether it's part of the main story, or even briefly alluded to it, or do you think it should be something completely like a fresh slate? What are you hoping to get, basically?
Well, my personal view is that I don't really want it to be connected to Spectre. I think it should be a standalone adventure, because I think that there's already a strong connection between Craig's other movies, and so I hope they go for a standalone story, and hopefully with a little bit more quotes that can be memorable, so that we can use some quotes from the Craig era. So hopefully, I mean, what I'm saying is that a little bit more humor, basically, and maybe a sort of classic Bond movie in a way. But no, I don't really want it to be connected to the others. I hope they go for a standalone pick.
So what were your thoughts on the Spectre?
I enjoyed Spectre, actually. I think the majority of Bond fans, they prefer Skyfall over Spectre, but for me it's actually the opposite, because I think Skyfall was a brilliant movie, but it was so much more than a Bond film, for me at least. It's a great movie, absolutely, but Spectre for me was more of a Bond film for me, because it has, I mean, obviously I was very excited that they were going to bring back Spectre and Blofeld and all that. So I actually enjoyed Spectre much more than Skyfall, even though I must admit I think Skyfall is a better movie in many senses, but I think Spectre is more of a Bond film for me, even though I really don't like this connection between Blofeld and Bond, of course, as probably you agree with me.
Yeah, absolutely.
But apart from that, I think I enjoyed Spectre, absolutely.
Is there any particular actor or actress who you'd like to see as a potential villain for Bond 25 or a future Bond film, perhaps? If you were kind of like co-directing with Kerry Fukunaga and you were sort of casting director for the film, who would you want to put forward to be in it, to be in the next Bond?
Well, I don't know. Maybe I'm getting older or something. I don't know. But I don't really like to speculate so much. I mean, I'd prefer. I mean, I always like to see what's coming, and then analyze that when it has arrived, so to speak. But I don't really speculate so much. But so I haven't even thought about this before. But I mean, if you ask me what kind of villains I like, I mean, I think Javier Bardem was a brilliant villain. The best thing, the one thing that was fantastic with Skyfall, I think, was Javier Bardem, because I think he was brilliant in that film. Christopher Waltz, I think, was a little bit overrated, but he was a good villain, sure. But I don't mean, why not a female villain this time for a change?
Why not? Yeah,
that could work. That could be a nice touch, I think. But I haven't really, thought about names. So I mean, who would be suitable for it? But I'd like to see what's coming though, but we'll see about that.
Absolutely. So speaking of what's coming, I saw you make a little hinting post on Instagram the other day. I'm sounding like an Instagram stalker, aren't I? I've referenced your Instagram account so many times, that you're thinking of perhaps putting together another From Sweden with Love event for, was it next year or the year after?
Yeah, next year for the 15th anniversary of my site, I thought was appropriate, because the first one I did 5 years ago for the 10th anniversary, but it was so much work because I spent like 3 months full time just doing that, and it took so much effort from me. Excuse me. But then I posted this. I saw it more as a poll, basically, because I posted it to see the reaction from people, and is it worthwhile to go through all that craziness again and organize an event? And based on the feedback, it seems that it probably looks like it's a good idea. So I will go for that. Yeah.
Awesome.
Do you have dates for it at all? Do you have any dates for it?
It's a little bit tentative at the moment, but I'm looking at August or September.
Okay.
Most likely, I haven't confirmed the dates yet, but I actually already talked to some of the VIPs, which has confirmed basically that they want to come. So I think it should be good. Mm-hmm.
Sweet, that sounds good. I will definitely be purchasing a spot for that. That sounds good.
Yeah, so definitely, without a doubt. There are obviously one or two other Bond events happening next year. There's one in particular which I can think of. Are you looking forward to perhaps May, June next summer by any chance?
Absolutely, for sure. And George too, by the way.
And George as well.
Yeah, because I've been helping with providing the guests, like I said, to the other two events. So I offered to help again with that. So the same guys is coming now as in 2015, and then I managed to also find two new additions. Eddie Stacy, who was a stuntman, and Eric Lavizza, who was he coordinated the car race on the ice track.
Sweet.
So and everyone is very much looking forward to it. So. And so am I, of course. I actually happened to be in Portugal. I have been there. 1991, I was in Portugal with my family. And back then, of course, I was aware of the movie, but I didn't know that it was filmed in Portugal. And then a couple of years later, I realized that I think we were actually on the same beach as the fight between James Bond and Raphael, Terry Mountain's character. And then luckily, my father had taken a few photos from when we were on the beach. And then I actually could confirm that, oh, shit, it's the same beach.
How crazy.
So that was a nice touch. But so I very much look forward to go back, because I've never been back since. And so that's probably the part that I'm looking forward to the most, to be in Portugal, actually. Shilton is always nice. It's a great location, but Portugal should be fun too. Are you guys coming along as well to both Portugal and Switzerland, or?
At the moment, just the Switzerland side of things. We've been in touch with Martin about Portugal, so we'll have to wait and see, hopefully. But if not, 100% Switzerland. We're kind of extending the Switzerland trip, so we're going to Peace Gloria, and then we're making it sort of an extended week afterwards. So we're going to Bern, we're going down to Lake Como, we're going to Furka Pass, Vasaska Dam, and all of that. So it might be that we just do the Murin side of things, but that weekend alone is going to be fantastic. It's going to be brilliant. Yeah,
it's going to be. But have you guys been to Shilton? You haven't been to Shilton yet.
No, yeah.
You're in for a treat. I think that's also absolutely high up on the list of my favorite Bond locations, because it looks basically the same as in the movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
To be up there, to go up there with a cable car and everything, it's spectacular. You're in for a treat for sure.
Those ones are the most special ones, aren't they? When you go to a Bond location and they look more or less like they did in the film. It was like you in Istanbul at the Grand Mosque, wasn't it, Chris? Like those photos you took, identical to From Russia with Love, especially when it's an older film like that as well. It makes it even more special.
Yeah. No, there is something special to this, I think, to go to locations. Absolutely. It's thanks to Martin's book and the work that he's done with this. I think there is quite a big group of people who like to do location scouting nowadays, and I also personally think it's a fantastic way of traveling. Because I remember in a couple of years ago when my then girlfriend and she said, "Why don't we go somewhere together?" And I said, "Sure." And where should we go? And then we discussed back and forth, and then I said, "Why don't we go to Sardinia?" And I naturally didn't mention the fact that Spy was filmed there. But she said, "Oh,
I
that
have
sounds
exactly the same system when we travel." Absolutely, yeah.
So that sounds like a fantastic location, Anders. Let's go there.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, let's book it. And then, of course, when we came to Sardinia, I told her this brief fact that, by the way, did you know that they made a movie?
Wait till you're on the plane and then you drop it. Yeah, it's good.
I thought you were going to just ask her to take a photo of you with a Hotel Di Capo behind you or something like that. So just so she knows what's going on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, but it's I think it's a fantastic way of traveling. I mean, the trip that Martin organized last year when we were all in Japan was like a spectacular trip. I don't think I will ever make such a good trip again, because to go through half of Japan with that group of people was like so memorable.
Yeah,
and especially to go to this fishing village in the south of Japan. I don't know if you've spoken to Martin about it, but I think there were like 100 people living in this village. Looks exactly the same as in the movie, and we were met by the mayor of the city and some local people who worked on the movie, so we got to see their private photo albums from the shooting, and that was like insane. I don't think I will ever go back there again, but that was a fantastic location to go to, actually.
Brilliant.
Very memorable.
Have to go there sometime, hey Tom?
Absolutely, big time.
Definitely. There we are. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show, Anders. It really has. So if our listeners want to find out a bit more about you and about From Sweden with Love, where can they find it?
Well, the website is under jamesbond007.se, and we also have an Instagram page, Facebook, Twitter, and it's jamesbond007.se as well.
And if they want to find you on Instagram, they just have to ask Tom. Is that right?
I believe that's a solid advice.
There you go. I'll sort you out, listeners. Don't you worry. It's all good. Good stuff. Yeah. Well, thanks. We did, like we said at the beginning, I feel like we were going to learn some stuff from today's interview, and I feel like we did. It's been an absolute pleasure. So thanks for joining us, man.
Yeah, my pleasure, guys, and keep up the good work. Before I leave you, I can add a little bit more of trivia for you that you might not know. Some people know about it. But as we discussed, that Britt and Maud, or Bert and Mud, as Roger Moore called them, they were the first Swedish Bond girls in the series. But it could have been different, because they tested a Swedish girl for one of the big roles in Majesty. I believe it was for Tracy, and her name is Agneta Ekemyr. And George, actually, when I speak to George about this, he fondly remembers her for whatever reason. But she could have become the first, but obviously it didn't happen. But she was one of the very few they selected from in the end to play Tracy.
Whoa!
Wow. I do have a slight trivia question for you as well, Anders, if that's okay.
Oh, absolutely. Shoot.
There is one other Swedish actress I can think of who appeared in the Bond films, and she appeared prior to The Man with the Golden Gun. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah. You mean on a billboard?
I certainly do.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's right.
One.
Anita Ekberg. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
She made a movie, Call Me Buana, I think it was. Who I believe, Eon produced it as well. It was a self-promotion, a good PR publicity stunt there.
I was hoping to catch you out there, but it didn't work.
Nicely done.
I still haven't forgot everything, I hope.
There'll be Bond fans across the world googling the name of the runner-up for the role of Tracy there to see what we always say that alternate history version of Bond of like, what if somebody else had been cast, or George had done a second Bond film or whatever. It's interesting to kind of speculate about what that might have been. So I think she's pictured in Charles Helfenstein's book, The Making of On a Mad Secret Service. I think there is I know she's mentioned in it, but I think there's also actually a photo from the casting call. Because I think they filmed a little sequence there with George and her. Yeah, nice.
Check that out.
And she's still alive, actually, but she's got Alzheimer's as far as So it's a little bit sad.
Yeah, absolutely.
But,
Well, I tell you what, we'll be looking forward to catching up with you next summer then, Anders, and hopefully speak to you before then as well.
Likewise, guys, and hopefully we get to meet in London before, because I go to London once in a while.
Sweet, sounds good.
All right, well, take care, Anders, and we'll speak to you soon.
Yeah, see you guys.
Cool. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks for calling.
All right, man. How cool was that? It was great to have Anders on the show. What a dude. It's funny, isn't it? Like I was saying, how he's been around from Sweden with Love since 2004. And then, fast forward, 14 years later now. And there he is managing some Bond girls, managing Bond himself, playing a round of golf with George. I mean, goodness gracious me. As a fan, does it get any better than that is my question.
I don't think it can, really. You're playing golf with James Bond, I mean,
and beating him as well, by the sounds of it.
And beating him, yeah. I think, like you said, you'd be walking tall after that and have a smile on your face. So, I mean, it was great to hear all the sort of interesting stories. And Sweden as well, that would be a wicked country, I think, like a good location for a future Bond film, whether it's the archipelagos around Stockholm or even further up north with the snowy sort of mountains and stuff. But I mean, like you said, it will have to happen, won't it?
Yeah,
every country in the world will eventually get filmed in by Bond at some point, I imagine, if it keeps going. But
absolutely. Yeah, it's one of those, isn't it? Like we often say, whereas hasn't he been yet? And things like Australia come up reasonably often and stuff. But some of those countries I feel like just don't have that Bond flavour to them. Do you know what I mean? It just, I can't see Bond rocking around Sydney or Melbourne or somewhere like that. It just doesn't quite feel Bondian. Somewhere like Rome, obviously, no brainer. That totally feels Bondian, and I think Sweden fits into that mold as well. I feel, especially with like Stockholm being based on all those islands and stuff. Like you said, a boat chase. I mean, damn man, that sounds good, doesn't it?
And the fact it's straight out of Fleming as well, isn't it? Casino Royale, Second Kill or whatever. What about Cape Town? You're obviously getting to see a bit of Cape Town. Would that make a good Bond location, do you think?
Yes. I'm down here in Cape Town for a couple of months, and it definitely would. It's funny because it's one of those places where it has devastating natural beauty. It's like I look out the window and I can see this little mountainy thing called Lion's Head, which has this amazing view. We hiked up it a couple of weeks ago, and then the other side of that is Table Mountain, which is an iconic kind of location. And if you drive around Cape Town, it definitely it feels like an exotic location in it. I could definitely see Bond visiting here for sure. I think Cape Town, Sweden, two very good choices, I think, and places that he obviously hasn't been yet.
Oh, sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Well, if they do, then I'll be shooting over there as well. We so have to get on the extras, man. We got to do it. We have to do it.
That is the dream, isn't it? I think for any Bond fan, you've got two dreams. You've got to have your name on some kind of official Bond thing. So, for somebody like Terry Bamber, for example, he was saying how he always loved Bond, and then he was lucky enough to work on the films, and obviously you'd go and watch the film and his name would sail past in the credits, and that would be like, that's ultimate dream, isn't it, for a fan? Yeah. But then I think the next level dream of that is actually appearing on screen in a scene and Bond walking past you or something. I mean, damn, dude, that's like, because when you go to watch a film, obviously, I'm sure there are a lot of Bond fans who have worked on the Bond films over the years in different capacities, and there's a lot of names that scroll past that screen. But to be one of those people who is actually on screen is like a next level. There's so few people that have managed to pull that off, And then, on screen, if I was like Anders, I'd have that little still of me or whatever it is from being in the film framed, stuck on the wall straight away. And then the next level from that is appearing in Bond and somehow interacting with Bond. Yeah. And I think old Sid Mann did all right out of it in his couple of films, didn't he? There's a perfect example of absolute result for a Bond film, Hand in Bond and Briefcase, and getting like full facial screen time. I'm sure Sid would have done it even if it was asked. Whatever, just get me on camera. I mean that's dream come true stuff, isn't it? Really, absolutely. Totally, man. Yeah. Totally. Living a dream. But it's funny, isn't it? Like with the people we've been lucky enough to interview over the years, from Siraj through all the Bond girls and the various people that have worked on Bond over the years. As a fan, somebody like Anders, who's obviously a super fan, much like we are, and the stories that come out from just being a fan over the years are quite interesting, aren't they? Like, saying going to the son of Richard Keel's wedding and stuff and all the rest of it. It's like, those are stories you wouldn't hear from anybody else. It's kind of nice to hear it from somebody who's, on the same as all the rest of us who, either make this podcast or listen to it. We're all just geeks at the end of the day, aren't we?
Afraid so. Yep.
Okay, then. So we should get back to the trivia question of the day, shouldn't we, Chris? Which was from Simon Drake. Should we have a little reminder of what that question was?
Now, let's do it. Let's have a reminder.
How many times does the word détente get mentioned in the Bond films?
Okay. Détente. How many times does it get mentioned in the Bond films?
Right. I tell you what we should do.
Go on.
I think we should do... Because you can think of a few, and I think I can think of a few. So I think we should reel them off one by one. So you do one, I'll do one, you do one, I'll do one, and so on.
I won't do them in any particular order because there might be some. But yeah, okay. So that's détente, comrade. You don't have it, I don't have it. Which is obviously the end of For Your Eyes Only there, with the ATAC being thrown over the side.
Yeah, well, I'm going to cheat a little bit and go with that little hint that you gave us before the interview, and I'm going to go with détente can be beautiful, which of course is A View to a Kill.
Indeed,
if I'm not mistaken. That's it. With Polar even over.
Indeed, with the bubbles tickling her Tchaikovsky.
Lovely. Next
up for me is The Living Daylights. Obviously, Bond mentions it. Is it Bond that mentions it? It's not Bond, is it?
No. It's is it Koskov? I think. Is it?
I think it's
Koskov. What's the sentence? What's the word?
Do you know what? I can't remember what the sentence is for that one. In my ear, I think it's something.
No, I think it's something like he hates our policy of détente or something like that, isn't it? I'm sure. Yeah, it is. So when they're meeting at the safe house, at the Bladen safe house, Koskov's like, Pushkin hates our new policy of détente because he's trying to play MI6. So I'm pretty sure that's it.
All right.
Okay, so I've got there's got to be another one. Yeah, no, I can. A British agent in love with a Russian agent. Détente indeed.
Indeed, Spy Love Me. There it is.
Yes,
and I think that's it. I can't think of any more off the top of my head. Those were the four that came to my mind.
Oh, Moonraker when he's with Holly Goodhead in their hotel room, when they're like, détente, agreed. I'm sure that's when I'm sure. No, is it? It's either in the hotel room or when they're on top of the mountain, talking to each other, and they're like trying to one up each other a little bit. And she's like, she says détente, he says détente, she says agreed, and then he says something along the lines of oh, shit, I've forgotten now, but I'm sure there's one in Moonraker anyway.
All right, well, I tell you what then. So that's 4 with a possible 5. So let's turn it over to Simon, and he'll tell us about all 20.
Yeah, I was going to say, he didn't give us a number, did he?
He didn't. No. Let's turn it over to Simon then, and see what the answer is.
Hi guys, this is Simon from Brighton with the answers to my trivia question. To my recollection, it's 5 times over 5 films. The first is The Spy Who Loved Me, where Bond asks Stromberg where Anya is, and he says, well, a British agent in love with a Russian agent. Détente indeed. The next is Moonraker, where Bond's talking to Goodhead, and he says, we would be better off working together. Détente. And then For Your Eyes Only, which is probably the most well-known one, where Bond chucks the ATAC off the cliff and says, that's détente, comrade. You don't have it, I don't have it. The next one is View to a Kill, where Paula Invanova says, détente can be beautiful. And the last one is The Living Daylights, where Koskov is talking about Pushkin, and he says he hates our new policy of détente. So I can think of 5 of those 5 films. Those are the ones. Thanks.
Nice one, Simon. We did it between the two of us, man. That was impressive. I wouldn't have got Moonraker, awesome. Actually. I wouldn't have got that. So that was good work on your part for scoring that one. Good work.
But I thought there might have been another 1 or 2 films that we didn't sort of get it. I thought it might have been in from Russia, but I couldn't remember it. But yeah, that's awesome question as well. So nice one, Simon.
Absolutely.
Sweet.
Good stuff.
Teamwork.
Détente indeed. So it's time, Chris. I know you're excited about this, as am I and most of the listeners. It's time for the Guess the Quote round.
Bond, James Bond.
That's right. It's time for one of us to furnish a quote and for everybody else to try and get it. Now, it was my quote last time, wasn't it?
It was, and I can't actually remember what it was.
It can't have been that good
yeah,
then, otherwise it would have stuck in your mind. I'm going to perform it for you again, Chris. You don't have to worry. Here it comes. Are you ready? You prepared for it? You ready to receive?
I am. I'm ready to receive.
Moneypenny, take this release.
Oh. Okay. So it sounds like it's something M would say.
Oh, I think you might be barking up the right tree there.
But it's which M? I'm thinking.
Well, it's not.
Is it Robert?
Oh, go on.
Sorry. No. Go on.
Well, I mean, maybe let me perform it for you one more time because I feel like the tone.
Okay.
No, don't make any assumptions.
Right.
The tone of the voice might help give it away. Maybe my performance wasn't quite right. It certainly wasn't a Moneypenny, take this release. It was more of a Moneypenny, take this release.
Ah, okay. Right, that sounded a lot more feminine the second time round. Yeah.
So Robert Brown, yeah?
Yeah. Moneypenny, take this release. Oh.
Come on.
Could it be female M? Could it
absolutely.
be Judi Dench's M?
You're right. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Moneypenny, take this release.
Yeah.
So it's obviously a Judi Dench M. Moneypenny, take this release. Oh! Tomorrow Never Dies. At the end. No, is it at the end when they're talking about Carver after he's died and he was lost at sea? He was found dead at sea or something.
Well, Chris, the full quote is, Moneypenny, take this release. Elliot Carver is missing, presumed dead, drowned, while on a cruise aboard his luxury yacht in the South China Sea. There it is. Well done.
Boom.
Well
nice.
done. That was a good one for you to get. Nice one, yeah.
So it wasn't Robert Brown then?
It certainly wasn't. No, absolutely. Well done. I'm impressed with that, man.
No, it's a good quote. Nice one. Okay, would you like to hear my new quote for this week?
Yes, please.
It is, man, I hope you know what you're doing.
Yeah, let's hear it one more time.
Okay, here it is. Man, I hope you know what you're doing.
Yeah, that's one of those. I can't place it 100%. I've got a good idea, but I can't place it 100% yet, but I know it's going to get in there eventually. But that's a good one. I instantly recognisable as well, that one. Good stuff.
Cool.
Righty-ho. Now, last week we had a listener quote from our man in Dallas, JBR Dallas to be more precise, Derek Brown. So let's have a little reminder of what his quote was. Here we go.
Sure hope you make friends easy.
Okay.
I love that quote, man. I love it so much.
Me
it's brilliant.
too. That is a beauty. Instantly put a smile on my face there. So, yes, go on then. You go for it.
Well, it's got to be Live and Let Die.
Indeed,
and
it does.
I think you know the character.
Well, hello, Jim. What's happening, baby? That dude.
Like, you can't help but just smile, can you, when you see him?
What
the old cab driver. Yeah, that was brilliant. But the performance was spot on there by Derek.
It
Absolutely
certainly was.
Spot on.
Good stuff. So we should double check that we've actually got that right, because we might have got that wrong, Chris. So let's hear from Derek.
Hey guys, Derek Brown from Dallas, Texas, calling back with the answer to the listener quote. Again, the quote was, sure hope you make friends easy. Is it me, or does it sound a little different every time I say it? Anyway, that, of course, is the cab driver from Live and Let Die, as he drops Bond off at the Filet of Soul in Harlem. I resisted all temptation to also include the portion, he's heading on in, but I figured that would have been way, way, way too easy. Anyway, hope everyone got that one, and if not, it might be time to rewatch Live and Let Die. Listen, thanks again for a truly incredible podcast and for every single thing you fellas do for us 007 fans and for the Bond community in general. You're awesome. Keep up the amazing work, guys, and I look forward to seeing you both at Peace Gloria next May. Take it easy, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Nicely done. Thank you for your kind words there, Derek. Good stuff. I harassed Derek a little bit because he was saying, I saw him on Facebook said, I think I might go and do this Peace Gloria thing next year. And in all caps, I was like, there is no might. Just get it done. Get it done. And then within a couple of hours, he wrote back to say, actually, I've just booked up. So good on you, Derek. It's going to be good to meet you next year, buddy.
One.
Excellent work. So do we have a new listener quote for this week?
We do indeed. We have a new listener quote this week from Mr. Kyle Barbeau. Should we have a listen?
Let's do it.
Hi guys, this is Kyle Barbeau calling from New York. Big fan of the show. And I have a quote for the Guess the Quote round. Here it is. Fish for supper again.
Ooh.
That is a good one. Fish for supper again.
I must admit, that's not ringing any bells yet. Fish for supper.
There's something there. There is definitely something there, but that's a toughie. That is a really good quote.
Huh.
There is definitely something there.
All right.
Oh, God, that's gonna take a bit of work, that one, I think.
Nice one, Carl. Good stuff. All right, you might have stumped us this week, but yeah, all right, good work.
Good one.
Okie dokie, Chris. Next up, I should say, it is time for.
Who wrote the score for Live and Let Die? Who played Helga Brandt and how did she die? Who wants to stockpile the water in Bolivia? It's Tommy Trivia.
That's right, it's time for Tommy Trivia. This is where Chris breaks out the 007 Trivial Pursuit deck and quizzes me on the questions. What have you got for me this week? Is it going to be a challenging one or is it going to be easy?
I think this is going to be the hardest one you've ever done, Tom.
All right.
Are you ready?
I'm up for the challenge, mate.
Okay, I'm going to start with vehicles. Can you please tell me, after Bond shoots Locke, what does he do?
After Bond shoots Locke, what does he do? Oh, he kicks his car off the cliff.
He certainly does.
Yeah.
And, even before that, he throws the little dove pin in as well, doesn't he?
That's
and it moves
true.
Slightly,
and
then he kicks it off. It says on the back, Bond kicks the car off. So you've definitely got that. Nice one. Okay, on to gadgets and weapons. What is hidden inside Bond's hairbrush? What is hidden inside Bond's hairbrush?
That would be like a Morse code transmitter.
Transmitter.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Lovely. It says radio transmitter, but Morse code. Yep,
nice.
Brilliant. Okay, on to locations. Can you please tell me in which city does Sciarra's funeral take place?
That would be the city of Rome.
Yes, indeed. Oh, you're flying through these. Okay.
What can I tell
Halfway through, and you are 100% so far. We are on to cast and characters. You'll never get this one, by the way. Walter Gurtell appeared in 6 movies, including Moonraker, playing which character?
Well, if I'm going to be playing strict rules of golf, he's actually. Well, I don't know. Actually, hold on a minute, because obviously it's General Gogol.
Yeah, let's work out.
But are they forgetting who he played in From Russia with Love, which was obviously a different character?
Well, how many times do we see him as General Gogol?
Right, Spy Love Me.
Yep.
We see him. Do we see him in Moonraker? I don't think we do.
Yeah, I think.
Do we see him in Moonraker?
I think so. Yeah, no, well, that's the question, isn't it? He appears in Moonraker.
Yeah, all right. Moonraker it is then. Yeah. For Your Eyes Only, definitely.
Yeah.
Octopussy, View to a Kill. How many is that? That's 5, isn't it?
That's 5, yeah. Plus.
Living Daylights. That was his last one, wasn't it? So
6, exactly. So he did play... who did he play 6 times?
General Gogol.
Indeed, yes. And what was the name of the character for a bonus point that he played in From Russia with Love?
Do you know what? It escapes me. I know it, but it's escaping my brain right now. I'm having a bit of a brain fart. But I can tell you that Gogol's first name is Alexis, according to the Spy Love Me. Does that get me an extra half point?
I think it does. Okay,
right, cool.
So his character name is Morzeni, but you got the first name,
of
so
course,
you definitely get that extra half point.
Thanks, man.
Okay, so we only have one more to go, which is for the films for a clean sweep.
All right.
Can you please tell me what hobby is M pursuing when Bond comes to his home? And I want the correct term.
That would, of course, be lepidoptery, which is butterfly collecting.
He's only kind of done it. Check it out. It's clean sweep across the board. Do you know what, Tom? I'm not sure if I've got to the point now where I've actually gone through the set and we're just going through the set and you're getting them all right, or whether...
Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe I've just heard all these questions before and I remembered them somewhere in my brain. Yeah.
I think we should keep going for the next like 5 years, and then we definitely would have gone for it times.
I like that. That's good.
But yeah.
Anything that makes me look good,
Excellent
Chris,
job.
I'm up for that. You know.
You're up for that?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
that
It's all
sounds
good. All right,
Sweet.
wicked. So it's time for the final game of the day, Chris, which is, of course, it's the music cue. That's right. It's time for Guess the Music Cue. This is where Chris furnishes with a little tiny snippet of music, and we of course have to try and work out what film it's from and what scene it's from. Now last week was a bit different, wasn't it? Last time around it was, dare I say it, more entertaining and more exciting than any other music cue we've received so far. It was of course from Mr. John Ward, wasn't it, who played it live for us. So should we have a little reminder of what that music cue was?
Definitely. Let's play it again.
Let's do it. That's never not going to amuse me. It really isn't. I like
so
just
good.
that little bit at the end where he's just running out of puff, and it's just like at the end there. That's really, I like it. I like it a lot. So I've kind of got an idea of what it is.
Okay,
but I'm not 100% because I feel like in my mind that piece of music sounds a little bit different to that. But this is the closest thing I can think of. What about you?
Okay.
Are you confident?
I think I know what it is, and I think it's a bit sneaky.
Oh, okay.
But in a good way. But what do you think it is? And
so
yeah, go on.
I was thinking that maybe it was The Man with the Golden Gun, where Bond's trying to get the Solex out, and you've got that piece of music. It's like bam, ba 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 bam, ba 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 bam.
Yeah.
But I think there's too many notes in that than what John was playing.
Yeah.
So I don't.
But no,
that's kind of close-ish.
That's a good shout, though.
Yeah. What about you? Then? What are you thinking?
So I think he's being a bit sneaky, and I don't think it's an actual cue from a soundtrack. I think it's like, I think it could potentially be, if I'm along the right track, a machine that makes this noise.
Really?
A form. Yes.
All right. I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to let me play it again. Now you've said that, just to see if that rings any bells. Now, a machine.
Yeah. Yeah. Or like like a vehicle is what I mean.
I'm still none the wiser, to be honest. Go on then, give it to me.
I think it's from For Your Eyes Only. Does that help? Think of like a vehicle or a vehicle / machine. It is a vehicle really in For Your Eyes Only.
Is it
and
a vehicle / machine? Do you mean like, is it like
well,
one
it's
of
a
those
vehicle.
diving
It's a
suits
vehicle.
or the Neptune or what? What are you thinking?
I'll just tell you what I think it is. I think it's in the ice hockey scene. And there's that sort of machine vehicle, whatever you want to call it, that like sweeps the ice or like flaps.
I know what you're saying now. Yeah,
and when because he's got the hockey stick and those ice skaters are attacking him.
Yeah. And
when he gets them into the goal and there's a beep for one goal and then a for a second goal,
right?
And then a when he gets the third goal.
Right. Okay. All right.
I think.
I tell you what. Right now, if that is what it is, and you've got that from that clip, I'm just gonna. I feel like it's time to crown you the king of all things Bond, because I don't know how you would arrive at that conclusion. So if you have got that, I'm going to be very impressed. Should we have a listen to what John has to say then and find out what the answer is?
Yeah, definitely.
Here we go.
Hello,
cool,
it's John with the answer to the listener quote I left a few minutes ago. Thankfully, there's been no retaliatory measures from my next door neighbours, so that's good news. So that was, of course, the air horn sound from the ice hockey fight in For Your Eyes Only. Hope you had some fun with that one, and keep up the fantastic work.
Mate, I bow down in humbleness to the next level brain you have, because that is uncanny. I'm so impressed by that.
But you know what? It was spot on in terms of how it sounded. He really absolutely nailed how it sounded. And I think it's because I might have seen it reasonably recently that it sort of stuck in there a little bit.
All right.
Yeah. But absolutely, and I love that idea of again, anyone out there who's handy with a musical instrument and wants to send in cues like that, like feel free, because that was brilliant. I absolutely loved it.
Absolutely. All right, nice one, John. That was a good yet sneaky one. All right, good. I like it.
Yeah.
So, do we have a new musical cue for us this week, Chris?
We do, and I'm afraid this is back to the usual sort of snippet from a soundtrack rather than getting out my recorder and blasting out a tune or two.
Okay.
But yeah, let's have a listen to this week's music cue.
All right, that's a very high energy piece, isn't it?
It is, yes. Yeah. Any ideas?
I feel yes. It's definitely a recent one. That's as far as I will say. But
I think you'd be in the right direction there.
All right,
yeah.
Cool. Nicely done. We will obviously find out the answer to that next time, won't we? All right, good stuff. So that about rounds out today's episode of James Bond Radio. It was great to talk to Anders, and like you say, we will probably invite some more kind of Bond community people online at some point, and on the show, I should say, and have a chit chat, because there's a lot of cool people we've met over the years at like Bond events and Bond stars and stuff who've got some really cool stories about things that you just wouldn't hear unless you met those people. So I feel like it's time to give a spotlight to some of those people, and it was nice to start with Anders there.
Yeah, it definitely was, and like obviously sort of him saying that he was managed George and some of the Swedish actresses and all of that sort of stuff is just crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, it's just nice because everyone's had their own different Bond experiences, haven't they? Sort of growing up and stuff. And like you say, everyone's got so many good stories. So why not use this as a platform to get it out there to everyone?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Excellent.
Sounds good. All right, then. James Bond Radio will return next week. Until then, I've been Tom Sears.
I have been Chris Wright.
We'll see you next time, everybody.
Bye. Bye.